Commission reconciliation in Oasis is really a three-step process, and I call it the data entry part, the reconciliation process, and disputing the invoice is really the three steps. So step number one, let's go down to payments, and let's go and do a file new commission check. Identify the factory you're working with. And at this point, it's just pure data entry. So this is the data entry phase. So the check number, whatever it is that you got from the factory, I'll simply say that it's a $500 amount is all they're paying for. You can put in the date received, and this becomes important only if you're paying your outside or reporting to pay your outside sales staff based on the money that comes in. And that's as far as running the reports and everything like that, that's a long conversation. But this becomes the report date on the commissions for account report that we can talk about later. Now, one thing I want you to ignore on this is I just created these invoices so they show up here, and we do that as a convenience, but don't expect them to show. There's some tools for making unpaid invoices show, that's fine, but I typically recommend against using it. What I like to do is simply, if it's printed out, use a ruler or something like that so I can literally walk down through it and identify the lines that have been paid on as I go through here. And what I do is at the very top where the cursor is blinking right there, I'm going to key in, just do data entry here, so VI1, whatever it is. Notice I highlighted that line because it went and found it. So even if it wasn't shown on screen, it would scan the database, pull it on screen and highlight it. And if it couldn't find it, it'll actually bring up a little pop-up and say, hey, I couldn't find it. What's going on here? So all I do here is basically key in the amount that's paid and hit tab. So this is kind of a tab thing. So you enter the invoice number tab, the amount paid tab, and nothing happens because we found out a long time ago. It takes the mind just a second to go, oh, that should have been 22 cents as opposed to $22 or whatever the case is. At this point, I can hit enter, space bar, whatever, and it applied the $22 to that particular invoice. Okay, and don't worry about anything else going on. All we're doing is data entry at this point. So okay, and go ahead and put in the amount that's on there, 1760, and tab or enter, whatever the case is. Do the next one. So, okay, obviously I'm just running down the list here, but you would be running down your list of invoices that are printed out from the commission check that the factory had given you. At this point, I'll say $500 and hit enter on that. Everything looks fine. Your main thing at this point is to take a look at it, and what I'll say is, everything looks pretty good here. We have $532 in total commissions here. We had $500 that we got paid. We're $39.60 off. Now, let's say that is correct. We got paid on these, but they withheld something. So I'll put in a description of marketing is what they're dinging me for this time. So I'll say that they're withholding $39.60. Now everything balances. So my difference is $0 now. I have an adjustment where the factory has withheld $39.60 for whatever it is they need to do this time for an adjustment. I've gotten paid $539.60 in total commissions, and it matches the check and everything looks good. Now, the next part of this, so that's the data entry phase, and it's pretty straightforward there. You just key it in, make it match. Once the difference says 0, you could technically post this payment and pay your sales staff. But the next step is actually a little more important. So a couple of things are going on here. Notice these little check boxes started showing here. So right now we've paid to the amount that we expected in Oasis on here. So we expected $22 to come in, we got paid $22. It closed the invoice, and because that's all we expected on the order, it closed the order as well. We're done, okay? Now the next one, $17.60. $17.60 is what we expected on the invoice. It closed the invoice and it closed the order as well. Yay, everything looks perfect. Now the next one's a problem. So we got paid $500, we expected $750, and that leaves open $250 on there. And I can take a look, there's still $250 left on the PO. So it tells me that something's going on here. Now, what I can do is, if I think there's something wrong, I can go and dispute it right now and say investigate, or give myself a note. So okay, so I'm going to investigate my commissioning and overage, whatever the case is. Now, there's some tricks in here. We can assign it to someone else on the team, so a quoter or a customer service person to review it. But that's a longer conversation for today. I'll let you play with that by yourself. But I'll hit OK. That basically is the end of the reconciliation part on this. So we'll go through the dispute process here in a little bit, because all I did is I flagged it for a dispute. I haven't done anything else. At this point, I can post it. So I'll post my payment. Yes, I want to post it. No, I do not want to stop. I want to post it, and it's done. At this point, I can actually save and close and run my reports and pay my sales staff. So now it's time for step 3. We've done the data entry. We've done the reconciliation process. We've found the invoice that we want to go dispute, but we haven't done anything with the invoice yet. As soon as I go to the invoice section over here and I take a look at disputed, there's my invoice that I need to take a look at here. So if I open it up here and I take a look, this looks like a spec invoice as well, so this could be some really interesting stuff going on here. So I'll go under disputes, and I might have other information that I want to add in here, or I would need to talk to the commissioning groups or the counting point of the factory there. So did we get the overage? Don't know. And at this point I can hit note and email the factory a note on here. So what's happening is it's showing basically everything with the customer. Sorry, we do not have the address information put in here. We have the sales order numbers. Again, if I had shipping information on here, it'd show that, and the factory sales order number. We have the invoice or invoices that they have, the amount that they've invoiced, the amount of the order, and basically how we are set up and how we believe we should have been paid. And guess what? We believe we should have been paid a little bit more. And all we do is send that over to the factory. Now, last thing that happens is it creates a follow-up here. And this follow-up basically will remind me in a couple of days to take a look at this invoice and ask the basic questions like, well, do we agree with what the factory's done? So I'll hit OK, and you'll remind me in 5 days to follow up with it. And that's how we manage our invoices until we actually get a resolution at some point. The way I remove it off the list of disputed invoices, I click resolved and just identify why it was pulled off. So our okay, and then whatever you want to put in there. Normally you'd go back to the PO and adjust it if we're wrong. Otherwise we keep it as is and ask for the money is really what we're supposed to do there. Save and close, and that is how you reconcile a